Hello friends, I am back, stirring the same pot of chili. If you missed it, I asked about probably 2 weeks ago now on Instagram for questions, and I got like 200 questions, and so I'm grouping those questions by topics. I just stood here and talked for well over an hour. This video is going to be on a topic that I talk about here and there. Sometimes I'm more chatty about it than others, just because I don't know if you want to hear it or not. But in this call for questions on Instagram, I think I got this question at least 10 times. I'm talking about business. I'm talking about how I make money on the internet, how I provide my family of now 10 on the internet. On Instagram, she's asking, do you ever wish you'd gone another route, trained in a specific field? So, girlfriend, I got all kinds of training. I've got all kinds of fields. So I went to college. I actually had a college degree by the time I was 19, and I got a college degree in information technology, which, see, I've been married for 20 years. Travis and I got married after my first year of college. At that time, there were several things I was interested in studying, but I decided to be sensible and study computers. And so back then, getting your MCSE, your Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer certification was all the rage, and I worked with Windows NT 4.0. I mean, I don't even know what's out there now. There's this thing called the internet now, and that's going pretty well. I got the piece of paper, had the student loan debt to go along with it, fulfilled what I felt I needed to fulfill. I worked for Gateway Computers. I don't even know. I mean, back then their marketing was all the rage, and they had the boxes with the cow spots on them. When I was, ready for college, what had been programmed in me and what the pressure was, gotta get a college degree, gotta get a college degree, gotta get a college degree. And I think now, with voices such as Dave Ramsey, many other wise voices out there, if there's something specific someone wants to go to college for and they need college training for that, that's awesome. They need to go that route. But I do not think everyone needs a college degree. I don't think I needed a college degree. Before I had children, I thought I would have one child and they'd probably be in daycare while I worked. And then when I was pregnant, I was like, oh no, I want to be home with my baby. And that's what we were doing. And then when I was home with him, I remember him being like 1 or 2. I remember looking at him thinking, wow, well maybe we'll be really radical and have a second child. And at that point I thought I needed 5 years in between each kid, but I was only having one more. Okay, so I was very conflicted as a young mom of 21, probably 22 at that time, trying to figure out when and how I would have time for a second child. I had baby number 2, Zion. We moved across the state. Travis, who also has a college education, had took a big pay cut in our move, and within that time we got tuned into this thing called homeschooling. And when I mentioned the wild idea to Travis, he was like, sure, of course we'll homeschool. And neither of us were homeschooled. I started researching careers I could have as a mom so that I could still be home with my children as much as possible. I fell into nursing. It looked like in our rural area, nurses were still making a good income, a good hourly wage, more than I had made with my computer piece of paper degree that I went into debt for. My vision at the time was, if I could become a nurse, based on the job ads I saw, I could pick up good weekend work. Before I dive into nursing, for this question, do you ever wish you'd gone another route, trained in a specific field? And I think sometimes people see me at home being a mom with a bunch of kids. You know what? I know homeschool moms that are lawyers and are doctors and are highly educated, and they're still homeschool moms at home with a bunch of kids. So just because moms are home does not mean that they haven't received some sort of further education. I have an IT degree and I was a nurse. For the last 8 years, I've been an accidental entrepreneur, which really, it's a goofy accident, yes. An accidental entrepreneur, turning my $20 startup hobby into a full-time business that also brought my husband home full-time in 2013. My hobby has been far more successful than any additional formal training I could have added in. I have several questions on here about when I was a nurse, and I haven't really ever expounded on that except saying, yeah, I was a nurse. I was a nurse for this time. But I thought I would answer some of those questions. So at 23, already with this college degree that I had nothing but debt for, it felt like, and 2 little ones who I then had the vision to homeschool, I started researching nursing programs. And I didn't want to have to leave my children, of course. It's the quandary of every mama's life, right? Didn't want to have to leave my children. Whatever I was going to do, I wanted it to take me away from them the least amount possible. So, looking at nursing programs, we had a community college that had a very popular nursing program. See, daytime classes and the clinicals were daytime and evening. And then there was a technical school, like a trade school, that also had a nursing program. But what was beautiful about that was that it would still give me a nursing license, but it was an evening program. It was a part-time evening program. And so that meant I could be home with my 2 little boys all day, and then it was literally when Travis got home at night, it was a high five tag team. He had the little boys, I went to nursing school. We moved to an apartment that was close to the nursing school, so I had a 5-minute drive. It was fantastic. And actually that summer before I started, even after I had little Zion, I went to work that summer at Wendy's, a Wendy's fast food restaurant, and I worked there a few evenings a week to save up for my tuition. The quandary at the time was if I did the community college program, and even though I already had a college degree, I didn't have any nursing related classes. So I would be starting at the beginning, 2.5-year intensive nursing program. And I'm thinking that this video is going to be more my nursing history, and you might have to come back because I just talk a lot. You might have to come back for the online business portion. So I chose the evening program. Now the evening program was to be an LPN, and not the RN. So the daytime program would be for the RN. Of course, once I was done with my LPN, that community college then had an evening program. And so that would have been an option. But the reason I chose to do my LPN first was because once I had my LPN and my other prerequisites, which I did my other nursing school prerequisites online in addition to doing my LPN program, once I finished that, I would then have 2 semesters left at the community college, and then I would have my associate degree in nursing, and I would have my RN. Now, part of the reason, the big debate, and I know, like, I don't talk about nursing a lot to you guys. You're like, oh, you have thoughts on nursing, Jamerrill. I do. The big thing that I was going on at the time when I made the decision, I was seeing LPNs in my area starting at $16, $17 an hour, and I was seeing RNs starting at $18, $19, $20 an hour. So to start, I know there's differences on down the career chain, and so at that time I thought I will get my LPN doing this evening program, and then I will be able to get a weekend job and I can work the bonus shifts. And the way that it ended up working out, I will tell you a little bit more about my nursing school experience, but because I always took the bonus shifts in long-term care means I was a charge nurse of 20 to 40 patients. It's just how it is. And I would have 2 to 3 CNAs that were working with me at any time. It is hard work. But I was making as much as the RNs, and even RNs with more years experience, as an entry-level LPN, because I would work the shifts no one wanted to work. I would work night shift, I would work weekends. I had one position where I worked, and remember, this wasn't now, this was years ago, and it's still a decent wage. Way back as an LPN, I think I'd been an LPN for a year, I was making $26 an hour on the weekends, plus bonuses, because I had committed to work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday. And so during those months, I didn't work at all during the week, But every weekend, I'd make $26 an hour plus whatever my bonus was for that weekend, because they had such a hard time finding people for weekend work, and that was my goal in becoming a nurse. So I would be PRN for a couple different long-term care facilities, and they would also have skilled nursing units. And the skilled nursing units are people who just got out of the hospital that morning. Maybe they had a leg amputation, maybe they had some deep wounds that were needed to be packed. It could be for many, many reasons. They just got out of the hospital that morning. They probably should have still been in there for another few days or another week. I don't know, not my business, but they couldn't go home yet. And so it was a lot. It was a whole lot. And then of course you would have elderly patients and dementia patients and a whole variety of patients. But to me, it was a way to make a good income for my family and still be home with my children all week. So that's why I did what I did at that time. My first year of nursing school was a truly evening program. So I would go in, I was gone from like 5 to 9. And we had classes 4 nights a week. And then on the weekends, usually on Saturday, I worked an 8-hour shift at a group home. And variety of patients there, but they were all patients who were self-sufficient in different ways. They may have needed a towel handed to them in the shower, or they may have needed dinner served. Many of them worked at different jobs, just a variety of care. And you know, I can't get into all the stories, although I've got some interesting ones. Along with long-term care, I also worked as a psychiatric nurse at a state hospital. Other places I would work like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. It was the Baylor, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Many times I was the only one there who wanted that shift as well. And so I would usually cry while I was getting ready for work on Friday nights. I'd be very sad getting ready to have to leave, and I'd be so sad that first night. And then all day Saturday I slept. Then I worked again Saturday night, and all day Sunday I slept, and I was almost done by that point. And then Monday morning I'd be absolutely exhausted. Absolutely exhausted. I'd try to stay up a little bit, but I'd pretty much go to bed. And then I'd wake up at like 7 a.m. the next morning, and then we had Tuesday, all day, all night, uninterrupted, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, until I had to go back to work that night. My family needed the income, and it allowed me, even on Monday, when I was there in my drool, I was still home with my children, which, I mean, that's my heart. That's what I'm at 40 years old. I'm talking about things that would have been a big deal to me at 21 years old. You know, this has been a big part of my life, just to absolutely be home with my children. Nursing school. That's where we were. So I think being an LPN, especially if you work your schedules right and you can make it benefit you, because I mean, now I think all nurses, even RNs, oh my goodness, for the amount of work that a nurse does and the responsibility, the heavy responsibility, I don't think nurses are paid enough. First year played out doing nursing school in the evenings, working at the group home on Saturday. I would have a lot, you know, I did my anatomy and physiology and my college level science classes during that counted for credit with the RN as well. The second year, the evening program kind of merged with the day program. I then had classes during the day, and then I had clinicals in the early afternoons. So I would have days where I'd be gone like 9 to 3, 9 to 4, but then some days I wouldn't have class during the day and I'd have clinicals like 5 to 9. They scrambled it on me. I almost didn't finish it because it required that I find outside childcare. So another mom that I knew, who I'd been getting to know more, she was home with her 2 small children. And when she heard my situation, she said that she would watch my boys. And it ended up being, I think she had to watch him at least 3 days, cover up that spot here, at least 3 days a week. I think she did it for like $50 a week, God bless her. So my plan was at that time, since I had my prerequisites done, I didn't want to go right back into finish the last year for my RN. I had done the program to help provide for my family. Jaden was just turning 5 that summer when I graduated. I wanted to just get the best paying gig I could for the weekend, and I wanted to have all week to pour into those little boys. I worked at a long-term care center first. I tell you, it was a wild ride. I think my first night Yeah, my first night alone as a charge nurse with 40 patients, because there's less nurses at night. I think the first night, one of my units, we had a fire. And I laughed because it was so insane. It was something in the ceiling had sent the fire alarms off, all the rescue squads, fire trucks, and I was just petrified. We're pulling patients, following the evacuation plan. It was just nuts. And so then I went to the psychiatric hospital. I liked that a lot because they had options where when I did want to go back and do my RN, that they would pay for it, had good benefits. It was a state job. It was a really interesting unit that I worked on. I worked with a lot of patients that were deaf, blind, and mute, some all three or a combination thereof. But during that time, I became pregnant with baby number 3, Miss Naomi. So I worked at the psychiatric hospital until one night I found myself in a room with a patient, checking on one patient. And another patient, who was much larger and stronger than I am, came to the doorway of that room and started hollering for me to get out of there. And I said, okay, I'm doing this thing in here and I'm coming on out. But I could tell by the way that the patient was standing, and by their voice tone, and by the way they kept moving further in the doorway. Instantly I thought, I'm going to get crunched up in this room. I have to get out of here. So I started walking slowly towards that patient, and then I ducked down and I ran out beside them. When I was running out, this patient grabbed the top of my head and threw me across the hall, but that was nothing compared to what was going to happen to me if I didn't make some kind of a move. I was not hurt. Every weekend when I went to work the next few weeks, I think I went to work 2 more weekends after that, and I was scared. I was petrified to go to work. And you hear those stories with patients in general or working in a psychiatric environment, but then when it happens, you have to decide what you're comfortable with. And so I turned my notice in. After that, I took the job where I could do like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the much higher rate every weekend, and it was day shift. Then we went where Travis had the offer to do the Homeland Security contract, and we traveled with his job for a year. And then when we came home from that, I had been a nurse for a few years. I had some good couple-year nursing experiences, and I was pregnant with Gabriel, baby number 4. But I just thought after that year, I'm gonna just do all I can do to keep me home. Travis did make enough at that time to pay all of our expenses and bills, just barely. And if he could pick up any overtime, then there was a little wiggle room. I hate to do this to you guys. I'm gonna stop, pause, screech, and look for part 3 in the Q&A series, part 2 of my professional Jamerrill series, and we'll wrap up nursing here. I'm gonna keep stirring this chili, and in the video that'll be out tomorrow, I will share how I built my business, how I make a full-time income online, how I plan to continue to grow my business. Got some great questions. One of them is, what is your and Travis's plan if all this falls apart? So I'll share all of that in tomorrow's new video. Bye-bye.